What if the most polished era in movie history was also the most unpredictable behind closed doors? The golden age of Hollywood sold elegance, restraint, and fairy tale romance. But away from studio lights, the rules bent fast. Stars crossed lines, ignored expectations, and lived by their own rhythms. Halfway through this story, things get much wilder than the headlines ever admitted. And by the time we reach the top, one name changes how you see classic Hollywood forever. Stay close. This is not the version taught in film school. Number 15. Ava Gardner. Ava Gardner did not chase attention. It followed her. She arrived in Hollywood with a look that cameras loved and a confidence that rules could not contain. Studios tried to shape her image, but Gardner moved on instinct. Relationships came fast, overlapped freely, and rarely slowed her down. She married young and early, including a short union with Mickey Rooney, but commitment never defined her path. Powerful men were drawn to her independence. So were artists, writers, and musicians. Her time with Howard Hughes was intense and chaotic. Her marriage to Frank Sinatra became legendary for its passion and instability. Even writers like Ernest Hemingway found themselves caught in her orbit. What made Gardner different was honesty. She never pretended these connections were tidy or permanent. She spoke openly about attraction, boredom, and moving on when curiosity faded. That openness shocked an industry built on illusion. Behind the glamour was a woman refusing to be boxed in by expectation. Gardner did not live for approval. She lived for momentum, and in doing so, she quietly rewrote what freedom looked like for a leading lady. Hollywood sold her beauty. History remembers her independence. Number 14. Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor turned private choices into public events. From a young age, cameras followed her everywhere. Fame arrived early, and restraint never followed. Taylor moved through relationships with intensity, speed, and very little concern for public opinion. Her life was marked by multiple marriages, often overlapping with emotional connections that began before the previous chapter closed. When she became involved with Eddie Fisher, the world reacted loudly. Headlines exploded, studios panicked. Taylor did not step back. What made her story unusual was not the number of relationships, but how openly she lived them. She refused to hide. She refused to apologize for wanting more than one chapter. Her bond with Richard Burton became one of Hollywood's most famous pairings, ending and restarting as if rules simply did not apply to them. Taylor understood attention and used it. Every choice fueled fascination. Every relationship became part of her legend. She was not reckless. She was direct. In an era obsessed with appearances, Elizabeth Taylor chose visibility, and Hollywood never stopped watching. Number 13. Vivien Leigh. Vivien Leigh lived with urgency, not caution. On screen, she embodied control and elegance. Off-screen, her life followed a faster, more volatile rhythm. Her marriage to Laurence Olivier was intense from the start, formed while both were already committed elsewhere. Leigh pursued what she wanted without hesitation. When attraction struck, timing did not matter. Her personal life became a series of intense connections with actors, directors, and creatives who shared her passion and restlessness. Names circulated quietly within the industry, rarely spoken aloud but widely understood. What separated Leigh from others was intensity. Relationships were not casual. They were consuming. Each one left marks, emotional and professional. The pressure of constant attention, combined with personal struggle, created a life that burned brightly and briefly. Hollywood celebrated her performances. Behind the scenes, colleagues watched a woman driven by feeling, not restraint. Vivien Leigh did not drift through life. She rushed through it, chasing connection with the same force she brought to the screen. Number 12. Tallulah Bankhead. Tallulah Bankhead made excess look effortless. She was sharp, loud, fearless, and completely uninterested in behaving. Bankhead treated attraction as spontaneous and frequent. Waiting was not her style. Neither was discretion. She spoke openly about her many connections at a time when silence was expected. Friends, lovers, and acquaintances blended together. Gender did not matter. Status did not matter. Curiosity did. What shocked Hollywood was not just her openness, but her lack of regret. Bankhead viewed connection as part of living fully. Interviews became legendary for their honesty. She joked about long gaps between romances as if they were inconveniences. Her voice, her presence, her attitude made her unforgettable. Tallulah Bankhead did not live quietly so others could feel comfortable. She lived loudly so no one could ignore her. And that refusal to shrink made her one of the most talked about figures of her era. Number 11. Mae West. Mae West treated rules like suggestions. Before Hollywood caught up, she was already there. West built her image on confidence, humor, and complete control over her own choices. Marriage did not limit her. Expectations did not slow her down. She surrounded herself with admirers and partners from every background. What mattered was chemistry and wit. West believed attraction should be fun, not restrictive. She wrote her own lines, shaped her own image, and laughed at anyone who tried to shame her. Her boldness was deliberate. She understood that confidence disarmed critics. Humor softened judgment. Mae West never denied her lifestyle. She owned it. In an industry obsessed with control, Mae West controlled herself. That independence made her powerful. And long after trends faded, her confidence still feels modern. Number 10. Jayne Mansfield. Jayne Mansfield understood the power of attention better than almost anyone in Hollywood. She didn't just walk into a room. She redirected it. Studios tried to market her as a simple bombshell, but Mansfield was far more calculating than that label suggested. She leaned into curiosity, headlines, and constant visibility. Her personal life moved as fast as her career. Relationships overlapped, ended abruptly, then restarted elsewhere. Admirers came from every corner of entertainment and politics, drawn by her confidence and refusal to slow down. Mansfield enjoyed being talked about and never pretended otherwise. What separated her from others was volume, not secrecy, not mystery, visibility. She understood that Hollywood thrived on fascination, and she made sure there was always something new to discuss. Behind the public image was a woman who controlled the narrative by never stepping out of it. Jayne Mansfield didn't lose control of her reputation. She flooded the spotlight so completely that no one else could shape it for her. Number 9. Lupe Vélez. Lupe Vélez lived without moderation. Everything about her was amplified. Her laughter, her emotions, her relationships. Hollywood both adored and feared her unpredictability. She didn't ease into connections. She leapt. Vélez moved through relationships quickly, passionately, and publicly. Jealousy flared. Arguments erupted. Reconciliations followed just as fast. Those around her learned that closeness came with intensity. Her reputation grew from excess, not rumor alone, but behavior witnessed firsthand. She rejected subtlety in favor of honesty, even when it made others uncomfortable. Vélez treated attraction as immediate and urgent, never something to delay or analyze. Hollywood often punishes women for living loudly. Vélez paid that price, but she never softened herself to survive it. Her life remains a reminder that freedom, when taken fully, often comes without safety nets. Number 8. Clara Bow. Clara Bow became famous before Hollywood learned how to handle fame. She was young, adored, and overwhelmed all at once. As the original it girl, Bow attracted attention everywhere she went. Relationships followed naturally, frequently, and without pause. Her personal life became legend. Stories spread faster than facts. Some exaggerated, some didn't. What mattered was perception. Bow represented a new kind of star. Unfiltered, accessible, human. She treated relationships casually, sometimes calling them engagements, sometimes ending them overnight. Hollywood watched closely, then judged harshly. The pressure eventually became unbearable. Bow didn't fail Hollywood. Hollywood failed Bow. She entered fame without armor and left it early. Her story isn't about excess. It's about exposure. Too much, too fast, with no protection. Number 7. Louise Brooks. Louise Brooks rejected permanence from the very beginning. She didn't believe in staying where curiosity ended. Relationships came and went quickly, often leaving others confused by how easily she moved on. Brooks was admired for her beauty, but remembered for her independence. She walked away from contracts, marriages, and expectations without hesitation. Attraction interested her. Ownership did not. Her lifestyle shocked Hollywood, not because it was hidden, but because she refused to justify it. She didn't explain. She didn't apologize. She simply lived as she pleased. In an industry built on control, Louise Brooks chose exit over compromise, and that refusal to settle made her unforgettable long after the spotlight moved on. Number 6. Greta Garbo. Greta Garbo valued privacy more than permission. She avoided interviews, dodged expectations, and lived quietly on her own terms. But behind that silence was a life filled with deep connections and shifting relationships. Garbo did not explain herself. She didn't label anything. She moved between friendships and romances fluidly, without offering clarification to the public. That mystery fueled fascination. Hollywood tried to decode her. It failed. Garbo understood that silence can be power. By refusing to define her personal life, she kept control of it. Her legend grew not from exposure, but from absence. Greta Garbo proved that mystery can be just as disruptive as confession. Number 5. Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn lived like every day was an escape scene. On screen, he was the definition of swagger. Off screen, he carried that same energy into every room he entered. Flynn never slowed down long enough to reflect. Attraction was immediate, movement constant. Hollywood insiders whispered about his endless social calendar. Relationships overlapped, blurred, and reset without pause. Fame protected him. Charm excused him. Consequences rarely caught up in real time. What made Flynn stand out was attitude. He didn't hide excess. He normalized it. Parties followed him. So did stories. Some exaggerated. Some didn't need embellishment. Flynn represented a Hollywood moment when charisma could override judgment. His legend wasn't built on mystery, it was built on momentum, and by the time the industry tried to rein him in, the image was already permanent. Number 4. Marlene Dietrich. Marlene Dietrich blurred boundaries without asking permission. She didn't storm Hollywood. She glided through it, calm and assured, with a confidence that never needed volume. While others explained themselves endlessly, Dietrich simply moved forward. Her choices were quiet, deliberate, and completely her own. She formed close bonds across studios, countries, and creative circles. Some began as friendships. Some became deeper. None were announced or defended. Dietrich believed privacy was power, and she guarded it fiercely. Hollywood found that unsettling, not because of what she did, but because she refused to frame it for public comfort. At a time when labels mattered more than truth, Dietrich ignored both. She dressed how she liked, spoke how she liked, and lived how she liked. That composure confused critics who relied on categories to maintain order. While others reacted to gossip, she stayed still. While headlines chased her, she never chased them back. Marlene Dietrich turned personal freedom into a performance of restraint and confidence. She didn't demand attention. She commanded it by never asking. Number 3. Clark Gable. Clark Gable played authority on screen, and off-screen he understood exactly how power worked. Hollywood sold him as dependable, grounded, and steady. That image was carefully maintained. Behind it was a man who followed attraction freely, but rarely loudly. Gable avoided spectacle. He didn't leave chaos in his wake. He moved with intention, choosing discretion over drama. Studios quietly protected him, and he returned the favor by never breaking the illusion. Within the industry, his private life was an open secret. Outside it, the image stayed intact. What set Gable apart was balance. He understood when to step forward and when to disappear. Public respectability remained untouched, while private choices stayed private. That control allowed him freedom others didn't have. His story reveals something essential about old Hollywood. Not everyone played by the same rules. Some were shielded, some weren't. Clark Gable stood firmly in the protected circle, and that protection shaped both his legend and his legacy. Number 2. Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra treated relationships like music. Emotional, shifting, never meant to stay in one key for long. Fame followed him everywhere, and attention followed even faster. Wherever he went, connections formed naturally, fueled by energy and intensity. Sinatra didn't separate life from performance. Everything blended together. Work, ambition, admiration, and attachment all moved in the same rhythm. His marriage to Ava Gardner became legendary, not because it was quiet, but because it was lived openly and fully, and it was only one chapter in a long story. He connected deeply, then moved on when the feeling changed. That pattern defined both his personal life and his art. Stability bored him, motion excited him. He chased feeling, not permanence. What made Sinatra magnetic was honesty. He didn't pretend to be settled when he wasn't. That restlessness shaped his career, his relationships, and his reputation. Frank Sinatra didn't seek calm waters. He thrived in movement and never apologized for it. Number 1. Tallulah Bankhead. Tallulah Bankhead didn't bend rules. She ignored them completely. No one in Hollywood lived more openly or spoke more freely. She treated attraction as something woven into daily life, not something reserved for rare moments. Bankhead joked about frequency and dismissed restraint as unnecessary. She refused silence, refused apology, and refused to shrink herself for anyone's comfort. That honesty shocked even seasoned insiders, not because of what she did, but because she said it out loud. What placed her at number 1 wasn't numbers alone. It was fearlessness. She refused shame at a time when shame was the industry's favorite tool. While others hid behind images, Bankhead stood fully visible. Her life was loud, unapologetic, and unforgettable. Tallulah Bankhead didn't just live freely. She challenged Hollywood to look directly at freedom and decide whether it could handle it. Most of the time, it couldn't. So what happens when an era obsessed with perfection collides with human appetite? You get legends like these, polished on screen, unfiltered behind it. The golden age wasn't quieter, it was just better at hiding things. Which name surprised you most? Which story felt familiar? Drop your thoughts below, subscribe for deeper dives into classic Hollywood, and remember this next time you watch an old film. Sometimes the real story wasn't in the script at all.